So I was going to make a video about how to prep Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Yes, that is correct. We are done playing Lost Mine of Phandelver. Now we are moving on to Waterdeep Dragon Heist with a different group. Well, parts of two different groups merged together. Not all of them are back in the same group. So as I was prepping that video, writing the script and deciding what I'm going to say, it turns out that it was quickly becoming an angry rant from me about how much I dislike the way Wizards of the Coast arrange and organize and lay out their published adventures. So instead, I'm just going to do this. I will show you my session notes and then I'll give you a summary of what happened in the session. That, I think, is the best way for any new DM to understand how things work out in this game. You see my notes, you know what the hell I'm expecting to happen in this session, and then you actually see the session and you see that, what? These two are not even like the same adventure. That happens. I am expecting it to happen, but this will be recorded now. Everything. No going back. So this is the first time I actually held a session 0 for any of my games. Because Waterdeep Dragon Heist is a very different adventure from our bog standard D&D. It's a lot more political. It's just in a city. You are not fighting goblins and orcs in random wilderness places and going into dungeons in search of treasure. Not that those things are not here, but that's not the premise of the adventure. So without further ado, let me walk you through the notes that I had written down to tell my players for session 0. So first, offered the homebrew array. This is just something that I developed for no other reason apart from I'm not a big fan of rolling dice to generate stats, because rolling dice can lead to a Hercules character who is super good at doing everything and then a SpongeBob character who's not good at doing anything. I'm sorry, SpongeBob fans. I'm not saying that SpongeBob is useless, but you get my point. I don't like that. It is possible that everyone will love to have Hercules characters and play second fiddle to them, but I cannot expect that. I personally would not like if my character sucked at everything. So to avoid that, I am generally a fan of standard arrays or point-buy system. The one thing I noticed is most of the friends that I play with lean pretty heavily towards feats. They love feats. So what that means is the point-buy system or the standard array is not ideal. So I just, for fun, came up with my own standard array, and this was optional. They could pick this, 17, 16, 12, 10, 8, 6, or they could just go with the standard array from the player's handbook or the point-buy system. It was their choice. I have 5 players, 4 of them chose this array. The second thing I told them is that level progression is slow. If you are making a character where you're super excited to have that ability that you get when you get to level 4, you're not going to have fun. You have to start play with characters where you will enjoy playing them throughout, because this is an adventure that takes you from level 1 to, by the end of it you are level 5, but you never get to play level 5. So level 1 to level 4 is what you enjoy in this adventure, which means you have to like your character from the beginning. There is very little combat. That's my third point. It's not 0, but pretty low. Lower than normal. Combat is often not the solution to unlocking the key to the next part of the adventure. There's lots of investigations and interrogations. This, I thought, was an important point to drill into my players, because interrogation is a tactic that often falls by the wayside. Nobody thinks about it unless it's mentioned, unless they know that you're supposed to do this. That doesn't mean they're bad players. Please don't go bashing them. They're very good players. It's just one of those things that doesn't come naturally to the group. Neither does it come naturally to me, so I can't blame them. The next thing I told them is random murders might result in early end to the campaign, with everyone being killed, arrested, or hanged, or exiled. Pretty self-explanatory. It's a city. There's a code of law. You need to follow it. There are guards and magistrates who are trying to enforce the law. It's not a raw wilderness and chaos. The next point that I made is that there are many red herrings and dead ends. This is important. Please, if you're going to run Waterdeep Dragon Heist, mention this to your players. It is possible to hit 3 dead ends back to back. It can lead to immense player frustration. Please, please, please tell them in advance so that they know what they're getting into. If they know that this is a possibility, their mindset is different and it will be a lot less frustrating. Also, bribery is rampant in Waterdeep. So one thing I noticed when I was prepping the adventure is that there are many NPCs, and it is not often clear when they're presented to the players who's important and who's not. It's not often clear because it's the players who choose which NPC is going to be important and who's not going to be important. This is excellent design because you present a plethora of characters to your players and the players choose whom they like and want to interact with. This is great. This also means that I will be really challenging myself running this adventure. I am not very good at making NPCs come to life. That is an area of DMing where I'm really not good, and I'm actively working on that to try and improve. This is my challenge to myself, like, hey, can I pull this off? We shall see. Next thing is there's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape in Waterdeep. It's part and parcel of the game. You have to negotiate through those. That's part of the fun of the game. But again, this is not normal D&D, so you need to tell your players that, hey, this is there. Next up is the really cool thing. There is an opportunity to own and run your own tavern in Waterdeep, the City of Splendors. There are rules for that, and it's super cool, and I'm very excited to see what they do with it. The next one, I wrote it down here as a generic thing to tell. I don't need to tell this to my players because they're fantastic. I live on DM paradise. But the point is just reiterate that this is a campaign where you want to take good notes. There's a lot of things that connect back, NPCs that you need to refer to and go meet to progress the adventure. So if you're not as lucky as me and your players aren't as avid note takers as mine, do your players have Excel spreadsheets about things they need to do and how they're going to go about? Do they hold secret meetings on Zoom so that they can talk about their strategy and tactics while you are away? If not, you see why I say that I live on DM paradise? My players do that. If not, if your players don't, and I don't expect most players to do this, do tell them that note-taking is important for this adventure. Next, I'm just reiterating that this is a heavily political campaign, that there are multiple different power-hungry factions, and the players can potentially play them off against each other and use them. Next here is basically the history of the adventure, like what happened before. I don't think you'll find this to be very useful because I modified it a little bit to match my Forgotten Realms. If you see, I say that the legendary guardians of Greenest recovered the gold. That's just my other group that I'm still running for. And they actually played through parts of Hoard of the Dragon Queen and they recovered a lot of the loot. So I just wanted to throw that in for the players to see that, hey, the other characters, which are run by us, they did something good and that affected the world and now we're playing in it. It's just fun, just Easter eggs. And last but not the least, it starts in a tavern, the most famous tavern along the Sword Coast, the Yawning Portal. So I just tell them what the premise is, that they're young adventurers here to make a name for themselves. And where else would you go to find work other than the Yawning Portal? That's it, folks. That's the video. I thought that it would be really helpful to have a DM's notes pre-session and then a summary of what happened in the session. I cannot think of anything that could be more helpful for a new DM to know what they're getting into and how fun it is and how easy it is. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in Waterdeep.